What is going on, Hawks Nation? Welcome back to another edition of the HFTV podcast brought to you by Alex and Mac. Hope everyone's having a great day so far, a great week. I know I'd say the last 5 or 6 days has been very high for Hawks fans, right? We're on a 2-game win streak. We officially made the Quin Snyder move official just a couple days ago. And vibes are up right now. So we're excited down here in Hawks Nation. Mac, how you feeling, my man?
Man, I'm feeling great. We were just saying off air how felt like the good news was just piling up here for Hawks fans. I'll kind of start in the beginning. Obviously, we let go of Nate. I think all of us were pretty happy about that. Won't give Nate too much time. We've given Nate plenty of time on this podcast. We're not going to talk about Nate too much. But obviously, we have 2 games after the All-Star break where Coach Joe Prunty led us, and got to give Prunty his flowers, man. I was just kind of blown away by how different it was with him being at the helm. Because if you guys remember, he even coached a few games last year when Nate was out with COVID, and I don't feel like it was kind of the same. I feel like he kind of tried to keep some of the, schemes and rotations and ideas that Nate had as a head coach. But now, since Nate's gone, obviously, it was all Prunty. I couldn't have been more impressed, dude. Like, I honestly couldn't have been more impressed. I really hope Prunty can stay on as an assistant. But wherever he ends up, they're going to get a very valuable piece of their team. So, a couple things Prunty did, like he would call a timeout before the opposing team went on a double-digit run. He would, set up a after timeout play that actually involved moving the ball instead of playing hero ball. He gave flowers to his players. He called Jalen Johnson out for not being involved. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's great to hear that accountability from the head coach like that passed on to the players. So Prunty, mad respect, man. If you ever hear this, I want to give you all your flowers. You definitely deserve them. But obviously, the biggest news and the biggest reason why I have this smile on my face is we got our guy. We got our guy. I mentioned on last week's episode that this decision for the Hawks could very well end up being, one of the biggest decisions that this organization has ever made. If Quin Snyder goes on to win one championship for the Hawks, that's the biggest decision the Hawks have ever made. Okay. So hiring Quin Snyder, I think his pedigree, where he comes from, some of the coaches and players that he's worked with in the past, I could not be more excited. We'll get a little later into it about the press conference and all that, but the excitement for Hawks fans is at an all-time high. It should be at an all-time high. If you aren't excited, I'm telling you right now, go ahead and get excited because, guys, I don't know if we're going to turn it around this season and do something crazy, but the future, meaning next season, the following season, the season after that, it's bright for the Hawks right now, man, and I am pumped. I'm pumped. So I got to hear how you're feeling, man. I'm sure you're kind of similar.
Yeah. No, it's been great. And if you guys follow us on Twitter at HawksFanTV, we've had multiple shows regarding, the firing of Nate and of course the Quin Snyder move. It's been fantastic, Mac. I think I speak for almost every single Hawks fan. This is by far the best coach we've had since the Bud era. And I just want to read to the fans listening right now just some of what Quin Snyder brings to the table, right? And I'm going to address the elephant in the room first, and that is, of course, his playoff success and his playoff record, right? He was 21 and 30 all time in the postseason, right? So a lot of fans are going to say, "Oh, well, look at his playoff resume. Like he's a losing postseason coach, this and that." But I just want to make one thing very clear, Mac, and for all the listeners, that roster that Utah had was not ever at any point of the season or at any point during his tenure an actual contending legitimate championship level roster, right? They had one all-star in Donovan Mitchell. Of course, they had Rudy Gobert, which a lot of people, and if you guys have been following me at HawksFanTV.com for a minute, I'm not the biggest Rudy Gobert fan. Like, yes, he protects the paint, but that's literally all he does, right? He protects the paint. He's a great rim protector, but that's really the only value that he brings, which is great for that role. But that was your second best player going into every single postseason matchup, right? So he didn't have a whole lot to work with in Utah, and Utah being a smaller market team, no offense to Utah, it just is, but you don't see many free agent stars wanting to go to Utah as their destination, right? So it's in that sense, it is a small market. So they didn't really have that much star power, but given his roster, he was able to get a #1 seed in the 2021 season. He has multiple division titles. He has multiple semifinal appearances. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's just the second round. I prefer to say semifinals because it just sounds a lot better than the second round. But 3 second-round appearances. He's really good at ATO plays after timeout. Really high-powered, offensively minded coach, which if you talk to anyone in the league, that's what they all say. And it's a run and gun, high, fast-paced, shoot a lot of threes type of team. And for us Hawks fans, we've been begging and begging for the last few years to run a more modern styled offense, shoot up more threes. And that's what we're going to get with Quin Snyder, folks. So yeah, it's impressive that he was even able to win that many playoff games given the roster, especially in a very, very, very tough Western Conference at the time. Now, the East is better, in my opinion, than the West, but during his tenure there, I mean, you had the Warriors, the James Harden and Chris Paul Rockets, the list goes on. So that was a tough conference, and they were good. And his team did actually have a 3-1 lead in the second round to go into the conference finals, but of course they blew that, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Quin Snyder, super excited. And as you can see from just the player reactions and the press conference yesterday, I think he's going to be a good one. This is the first legitimate head coach, Mac, that we've had since the Trae Young era. And this is, I think, going to be the first coach that Trae, and not only Trae, but even a lot of our other players like the John Collins, Dejountes, Jalen Johnson, AJ Griffins of the world, they're really going to connect with them. And that's one thing that I think the Hawks front office was really looking for, is a coach that can really connect on that personal level, right? Because at the NBA, yes, X's and O's are great, and you have to have that in your arsenal to be a great coach. But more importantly, you have to be really good from a relationship and kind of ego managing standpoint, and that's what Quin Snyder is really good at. And multiple players that have played for him can attest to this. Donovan Mitchell, most notably, who's also really good friends with Trae. And as I'm sure you guys saw, Donovan, after the Cavs came into town the other day, he was whispering to Trae like, "Hey, look, you're really going to like Quin Snyder." So if you've seen even the clips today from earlier this morning at shoot around, you see Trae and Quin Snyder kind of talking off in the distance one-on-one. And Trae looks focused, Mac. Like he is all ears. Just he didn't break eye contact in that full like a minute clip that I shared on Twitter. So yeah, man, I think this team, and I think Trae and all these other guys are really going to flourish under the Quin Snyder offense.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. As you kind of mentioned yesterday during that press conference, Quin, look, when a coach is being hired with that press conference, 99 times out of 100, they're going to give a lot of coach talk. They're gonna say a lot of things that you like to hear. Okay, but Quin, I feel like just nailed him on the head, man. Like there was one reporter that asked a question. His question was basically like, kind of like you're saying, like, how do you manage all these egos in the NBA when these guys make so much money, right? Like that's basically the point of his question. Quin's response was, I still think these guys want to learn. They want to improve. They want to develop. And I thought that was speaking volumes in my mind. I think that was him being like, look, man, I understand Trae Young is worth $200 million, but the guy still wants to get better, okay? And that's what I'm going to help him do. So I could not be more excited for Quin. I think he, as I kind of mentioned on last week's episode as well, I don't think the Hawks have a bad culture necessarily. Like I don't think the teammate, the players don't get along, and I don't think that's the case. But I also can't say that we have this incredible culture at the same time, right? So I think that's what Quin's going to come in and do. When you heard Landry introduce him yesterday, it was the first thing he said. Basically, was like, "We agree on what matters in today's NBA," because obviously I think what they're kind of getting at, and we've seen it with some of these offensive performances by some of the lower people in the league this year, but like the point I'm making is the NBA's never been more talented. Like everybody is uber talented at this point. So having a lot of talent on your team isn't going to be rare at this point. What's going to be rare is how you manage that talent, how you manage these egos, how you help these, more often than not, pretty young men that I, again, mentioned on last week's episode, Alex, are significantly younger than you and I, right? Like these are young men at the end of the day that a lot of times, still need that guidance, still need that development. And that's exactly what they're going to get from Quin. Trey mentioned it. Shoot around the day, Dejounte said too. Vibes are up. Vibes are up right now. The guys are happy. They can tell they're in good hands. I do want to be a little hesitant because I know this is exactly what happened a couple years ago when LP got fired and we brought in Nate. Right, vibes were high, guys felt good. But the more we've heard about LP, like you've kind of shown on the account with Chandler Parsons, some of the tweets you've retweeted, I think LP is
What
a
was that?
pretty unlikable, man. I think he's a pretty unlikable guy.
What did you just say? Chandler who?
Chandler Parsons?
Oh, Chandler Parsons. Okay, yeah. I thought you said Chandler Parsimmons. I was gonna
No,
tease.
yeah, Chandler Parsons. Point being, bringing that up because it's like, look, man, these are multiple people at this point. Like, look, dude, Chandler even says he's like, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I did not like Lloyd. Like, Lloyd's just he rubs people the wrong way, man. So, point being is when that guy got out the door, of course, vibes were high. It was just finally like this bad manager, for whatever term you want to use, is out of the building. Now it feels different though. It feels like it's less like, man, like, it's just such a fresh start and more like this is finally what we need as players. I can't say it enough, man. I'm super excited about Quin. And as I mentioned earlier, hope Prunty can stay on as an assistant because I think Prunty proved he can handle being a maybe even a head coach in the NBA, but I don't know if the guy wants to be a head coach at this point in his career, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, man, it's great. Quin will actually be on the sideline tonight. We're recording this about 4:45 Tuesday afternoon, so he will be on the court tonight for the Wizards game. I haven't gotten word if he will actually be coaching or not, but I do know he'll be on the sideline, which more than likely means that Friday's game against the Blazers, that'll be his first go as the head coach and the one calling the plays and whatnot, and we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, vibes are up to quote the two people behind you.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Vibes are definitely up, and just also want to touch on the Joe Prunty stuff. Like, Joe Prunty, yeah, did a great job, and much like 2021 when we fired LP and Nate came in and vibes were up and the team went on that 8-game win streak immediately after his firing. So I want to manage and temper expectations. Like Quin Snyder obviously is respectfully like head and shoulders better than Joe Prunty. But even if we don't replicate what we did a couple years ago, and let's say even if we lose tonight's game against the Wizards, I don't think we will, but like give it time. I say all of this just to simply say give it time. This man is literally coming into a brand new situation, coaching a brand new team, brand new set of players that he's never ever coached before, outside of Trent Forrest back in Utah. But Trent Forrest doesn't even play for us really. So all the core guys, the rotational guys and the starters, he's never even coached. So it's always difficult to come into a brand new situation, not having any sort of relationship or even any sort of idea of, what this team is capable of. So yeah, just want fans to manage and temper their expectations. If we go on a late season run with these 20 games remaining, then fantastic. I think once we do get in the playoffs, I think that's really where Quin can really put his stamp on this team. But give it time. Even if we go 500 for the rest of the season with Quin Snyder as our head coach, give it a full off season, and let's really assess what this team looks like next year. But I don't want to talk about next year. To get back on the good stuff, right? We're on a 2-game win streak. We still have 20 games remaining. A lot of basketball left, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of basketball left. And, it's not crazy to think that this team could go, 16-4, 17-3 in these last 20. Like, obviously that's a pretty, high bar, but we've seen what this team is capable of when we're clicking on all cylinders. And it could be, eerily similar to what we did in 2021. So I'm excited. Joe Prunty did his thing. You could see even the players during those, if you guys follow the Hawks Twitter account, which I'm sure you do, or Instagram, they always have like those little mini, like 30-45 second clips of people leaving, in the tunnel to go back to the locker room right after the game. And yeah, all the players, their body language, their demeanor, it was all up. Jalen Johnson even said like, congrats on the first dub, coach. And, Joe Prunty responded with, appreciate that, J-Dog, and he dapped him up. So obviously there's a good relationship between Prunty and some of the players. And like you alluded to earlier, like the dude was calling timely timeouts, actually, communicating during the timeouts and setting up and drawing up plays for our guys that led to a lot of easy baskets. And yeah, he was doing his thing. So congrats to Prunty. As you guys know, Snyder will have this current coaching staff and this regime under his tree for the remainder of the season. And then in the offseason, I'm sure Quin Snyder is going to have full reins on bringing whoever he wants to bring in. But to your point, Mac, definitely want to see Joe Prunty at least play an assistant role, right, and remain on this team because it looks like a lot of the guys vibe with him. So, yeah, I'm excited. And I'm excited for this game, man. We can make it 3 in a row tonight against a Wizards team that's not very good. And as of earlier today, no Kristaps Porzingis. So that should help our front court. And yeah, this needs to be a win on all accounts. This is our 3rd game during our 5-game homestand. If we can take all 5 of these and go on a nice little 5-game win streak, sky's the limit, baby.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree with you. Tonight's a super winnable game. I actually didn't see the Porzingis news, so I obviously bodes pretty well for us in that regard. Hopefully, Onyeka and Clint can crash the boards without that giant mofo being down there. But yeah, man, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. And as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking of maybe some of our fellow Hawks fans that are a little younger. And what I'm getting at is when you're like, hey guys, like we're super excited and you should be, but like don't think that the Hawks are going to win a championship this year. Like, like that's very likely
possible.
Not it's possible. It is possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you're a betting man, you probably wouldn't put all your money on that. So and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The excitement in my mind isn't necessarily about this year because Quin Snyder isn't going to be the head coach somewhere else next season. It's the idea that we got our guy, as you've kind of alluded to in previous episodes, coaching in the NBA arguably matters more than any other league. So the fact that we got our guy is a pretty big deal. But looking forward to the rest of the season, as you mentioned, we got 21 games left with the, first one tonight being against the Wizards, a team that, we should beat. Blazers, another team that honestly, like, very well could lose that game, but I'm not necessarily scared of it. You know what I mean? Like we definitely could win that. Then I believe we take a 2-game road trip down to Miami and then 2 more games against Washington. So 3 of our next 6 games are against Washington. And to be completely honest, if you look at the standings too, Washington is pretty close. They're not far behind us in the standings, crazy enough. So we win two or 3 of those games. We're just, we're putting so much ground between us and the teams below us that we should climb up to that 6th seed, but we'll see what happens. I think there's certain teams in front of us that I think will kind of start to trickle down as I expected them to all season. Most notably Brooklyn, but yeah, man, I think the possibility of us ending the season, as you mentioned, like a 15-5, right, which is an incredible record to close out the season. That would, I think, in my mind, at that point, undoubtedly put us as a top 6 seed. The Hawks going to the playoffs as a top 6 seed, we can definitely make noise. Obviously, for those of you that may not remember, a couple years ago, we were the 5th seed, right? We made it all the way to the conference finals. We're 2 games away. Trey stepping on referee's foot, yada, yada, yada. We all know. Point being, though, is, in the NBA, no, you don't have to be a 1 or 2 seed to actually make it to the finals. You can catch heat at the right time and go on a long run. Where it's different from sports like football is that you do play a 7-game series, so more often than not the best team does end up winning. So that being said, that's where I do feel like maybe we could see kind of a similar playoff experience with the Hawks this season as we did in 2021, where we could maybe make a deep run, but maybe a team that's a little bit deeper than us right now has had a little bit longer of their winning culture or whatever you want to call it than we have. Maybe they do edge by us in a 7-game series, right? That's okay though. I'm saying I don't want to talk about the future too much, but the future is just it was always bright, as both of us have mentioned, because of the star talent that we have on this team. Now it just got so much brighter because we actually have a coach that's going to guide that talent. And I don't know, man. It's exciting times in Hawks Nation here. I hope all of you guys are excited. I will go ahead and predict a win tonight. I don't think the way we're playing, we're going to be losing to teams like the Wizards right now. So we'll see what happens. Vibes are up, and I think we're just going to keep going up, man. Going up in the standings, going up in the vibes, going up in everything in Atlanta, man. So it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, 20 games remaining. We're at 31-30 as it currently stands, which isn't where we want it to be, this late into the season. But like I mentioned, still a lot of basketball to be played. My expectations and my hope this offseason going into this newer season was, a 50-win team, right? And with 20 games remaining, Mac, that looks almost impossible. We would quite literally have to go 19-1 over our last 20 to hit that 50-win mark. But like I said earlier, even if we're able to go like 16-4, that'll still put us at 47-30, like 3 or something like that, if my math serves correct. So even at that record, I still think, yeah, we get a top 6 seed. I don't see Brooklyn maintaining their current 6 seed position. They're 34-26. Miami is right above us in the standings at 33-29. So there's only 2 games that separate us from the 7 seed and only 3 wins that separate us from the 6 seed. So yeah, absolutely. I think a top 6 seed is absolutely manageable and doable, which would be a massive win considering where we were like 2 weeks ago. And if we can just avoid the play-in and go into the playoffs with that 3-6 matchup, whether it's Cleveland or Philly that we have to play in round 1, that things could go really well for us. So yeah, my whole goal is avoid the play-in, snag a top 6 seed. It's going to take a lot to get in the top 5 because just the way with like Cleveland and New York is playing right now, especially the Knicks, as much as we hate the Knicks and how annoying their fan base is, they're playing some really good basketball and they're winning a lot of games that many people would have assumed they were going to lose during this little stretch of games that they had. But they keep winning, man. They're on a 6-game win streak, and they're trying to make it difficult for us to catch them up in the standings. But like I said, the momentum is on our side. Also, I want to share something before we end the show. A really good quote from practice today from Dejounte Murray. Shout out to our boy Kevin Chenard that works for the Atlanta Hawks as a writer. And this is what Dejounte Murray had to say regarding Quin Snyder, right? He said, the connection is great with me and him, stating, referring to Quin Snyder. The connection is great with me and him, but obviously it's just not me and him or him and Trey. It's down the line of guys. He's building relationship with guys 1 through 15 already. He's going down the line. He knows his stuff. Yesterday, we were having a conversation about JJ. He was playing. He doesn't play. He's a good guy. He gets it. Or he's a young guy. He'll get it. He'll go through experiences and get minutes. Like I told him, keep working and stay confident. Just having that conversation with Quin about Jalen, somebody who is not playing as much, he said, we need him. That just speaks volumes about who he is and how he's paying attention to the game today. Overall, I'm ready to accept the challenge, and I think it'll be great. And it's great to have a coach like that, referring to Coach Quin Snyder. So, I mean, guys, that little quote and that little tidbit right there speaks volumes, in my opinion. The fact that Quin recognizes the untapped potential that Jalen Johnson has, and just the fact that Quin is making an effort to not only build a good connection with, the 2 stars, the Trey Youngs and the Dejounte Murrays of the world, but he's taking his time to get to know all the guys 1 through 15, not just the starters, but even the bench guys and even some of the, 3rd or 4th guys off the bench as well. So, I mean, that's exactly what you want in a head coach. And I see why players and other GMs and other executives around the league speak so highly about Quin Snyder. From all the stuff that I've read, all this dude cares about is his family and basketball. So that's the type of coach we're getting. And just hearing one of our best players in Dejounte Murray say that stuff about our coach on day 1 of practice, I think that's huge. And I think this is the type of coach that A, is not only going to bring out the best in our players, but B, it's a coach that our guys are going to want to fight for, right? It's a coach that our guys are going to want to stand up for, give their best energy on both sides of the ball, and just they want him to be successful too. So that's a fantastic quote, and I'm excited, man. I'm sure that quote gets a lot of Hawks fans fired up. So I'm excited, baby. Let's get it.
Oh yeah. No, I believe Quin said in the foxhole with the players. Like he wants to be down there in the trenches with them and doing that. To kind of add on what you said about 1 through 15, a reporter asked him during his introduction press conference yesterday. Kind of like, you're known for your culture. Like, what's kind of your approach to getting to build these relationships with the players? And I think something that stuck out to me that I think spoke volumes as well is that he's like, each player is different, and because of that, they have different backgrounds, they have different experiences, they have different interests, they have different things that can motivate them. And I don't know for a fact at all that Nate wasn't doing that with the players, but Nate did famously have an old school approach. And from my experience with coaches or managers that have old school approaches, they kind of have a cookie cutter approach to the way they handle things. And with that being said, I don't at all think that was, a shot at Nate. I think that was just him being like, look, like I'm gonna have a personal relationship with Trey. I'm gonna have a personal relationship with Dejounte, and 1 through 15, I'm gonna have a personal relationship with all of them. And I don't know, man, that's needed in today's game. And I don't know. It's a good time to be a Hawks fan. And we can't thank you guys enough for the support. We'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Be on the lookout for more content from HawksFanTV. Check out our website, HawksFanTV.com. Sorry, Alex, I know you normally do this. I'm trying to do it for you. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HawksFanTV. Check us out. We'll be bringing that content. Alex, I'll steal this from you. I saw you just tweeted it before we recorded. Tomorrow, we actually will have the famous Ms. Lauren Jabara on our HawksFanTV Spaces. So if you are on a Twitter or a Twitter user and ever tune into our Spaces, be sure to tune into that one. I'm sure Lauren will have some great insights. She's super goofy, so I can't wait to see what she's got to say. Super excited though, guys. It's a great time at HawksFanTV. It's a great time at Hawks Nation, guys.
Yeah, and then last thing is we are about to drop our first ever merchandise. So we're tweaking some things with the materials and wanted to make sure that we were giving all the fans the best quality hoodie possible. So I think you guys are going to like this. It should be dropping in the next week or two. So we're super excited about that. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Oh yeah, go Hawks, baby.
Go Hawks, baby.
That's it. With 4 down. He's done it